All right, I believe we're live. So the lighting's off a little bit today, so you'll have to forgive me for that. And as you can see, we're working on Christmas a bit early here. I got a tree, and it's really big. And I guess we'll just have to make this work right now. It's kind of a tight fit. Plus, I've got cats laying all over the place. All right, guys. So today, I'm going to do a few introductions. My name is Jay, and I am the owner of Section8Consulting.com. And y'all are viewing me from the new studio here. We're still working out the fine details, and it's my hope today to teach you a little bit about emergency housing, low-income housing, and how you can potentially get this a little quicker. So every year towards the holidays, as we approach Thanksgiving and Christmas, for those that practice that, I always warn you guys that we're up for a new election this year. And so if you're looking at the potential for getting housing, whether it's a Housing Choice Voucher, Section 811, Section 202, if you're a senior, HUD VASH, if you're a veteran, or potentially you're already homeless, sleeping in a car, surfing couches, then you're looking at an emergency housing voucher. And for those of you that preferentially like more organized communities, you may be considering low-income housing, where it takes a portion of your income. In return, you're given a place to live on a property, but it's not a voucher. It comes with no portability. You may not move later. And so some of those are some of the options that we have that I'm going to discuss a little bit. Now, this morning, the first thing I want to cover is what we're facing for the end of the year and moving into January to next March. This is a preferential season, okay? Every year, we look at the market, and when it's bad, it's during the summer. And so right now, just like the housing market, it falls off a cliff, which means the demand, the number of people that want vouchers, has greatly decreased, and the ability to get vouchers at housing authorities that seem to want to open are at the highest level right now. But we also have to consider they're burning their federal budget. In other words, the money and funding they've received for these vouchers is going to diminish the closer we get to January 1st. But the good news is, again, low demand, more housing authorities open than there usually ever is for the season. And of course, January, you get a new federal budget, which means they're a lot less cautious in how they issue and how many vouchers they have. So it's a good season to do it. Now, as we approach March of next year, what you're going to see is things tighten up a little bit. Why? Because as after March, it starts getting more and more difficult. And when you get in June, July, and August, it's nearly impossible. Why? Because humans are a lot like every other animal on Earth. Everybody wants to do things when it's sunshiny outside and it's warm. So everybody wants to move. Everybody wants a voucher. And it becomes quite impossible all the way to about September. So the summertime, it's a horrible, horrible time. And in fact, a lot of our services we don't even offer through that month, but a couple of months, because it's terrible. Now, for getting housing immediately, so the implication of getting a emergency housing voucher has always remained the same over the past 20 years or greater. And that's they offer an emergency housing voucher for those of you that have critical issues going on. You may be living in an apartment where the market's going wild and you can no longer afford to live there. And in that situation, you might be afforded an emergency housing voucher through CES, or Coordinated Entry System. For those that don't know what Coordinated Entry System is, or CES, do a quick Google search. You'll learn a lot. Now, that is run through a system also known as COC, which is Continuum of Care. Now, these two programs, this program and its administrative process, may not be something most of you are familiar with. You think that the emergency housing voucher comes from your local housing authority. It does not. In fact, post-pandemic, now that the pandemic for the most part is over, that administration of those type of vouchers have been relegated to continuum of care providers, which are generally nonprofits. It would also imply that you would potentially need to be homeless. Not necessarily, though that is the target of the funding and the type of vouchers they offer. And let's digress a little bit. So we're talking about emergency housing voucher through continuum of care, or CES, or Coordinated Entry System. So there are three potentials there. Actually up to 5, but I only like to talk about 3 because some of them are irrelevant in the quest for your needs. So the best is the emergency housing voucher. Next down the line is going to be permanent supportive housing. Permanent supportive housing would be something good for those that are 62 years and older, and also those that struggle with mental health issues. You're suffering from bipolar, schizophrenia, or other unmanageable things that make possibly staying employed untenable, or you need wraparound resources where people come out to kind of check on you, stuff like that. Now, for those of you that function without a mental health related issue, you might find that intrusive, but keep in mind that wraparound resources are there for those who want it. You may deny it. And so while I'm making this video today live, at least while it's staying live, please feel free to ask questions. If you want to sit in the background and not ask questions, I understand. Some people just are a little shy. When you feel I've struck a chord, please do comment in the live part here, and I'll do my best to answer your question. So it looks like Gabby says, I reached out to CES and they were no help. I've contacted them over and over and was told they are not accepting referrals to use Google for my housing needs. Well, Google doesn't provide houses, so I'm not quite sure what you're talking about, Gabby. However, when it comes to CES, I don't know who you reached out to. I don't know what information you have, or your training or background, or how are you arriving at CES, but it certainly is an opportunity if you know how to access that. To how it works, because administrating this type of thing for greater than 20 years, I can tell you that there are roughly through CES and COC, I don't know, maybe about 3,000 places in which you can get it. So it's not an impossibility. However, many of you on your own attempts or research seem to fail at it. That's why I always tell people, just reach out to our office. Look in the description, reach out to us. We've been able to organize the information and locations and the things that are required better than the average human, unless you got a good 10 to 20 years to learn it the way I do. All right, Gabby. So again, I'm not here to offend. I'm just here to share what I have to get in relation to all this. All right. So besides the permanent supportive housing, the emergency housing voucher, then you have rapid rehousing. Many people throughout the pandemic and even post-pandemic reached a situation where they may have lost jobs, they may were facing eviction and other issues. And so when we have a short-term crisis, which means that by virtue of a set of incidents happening, you lost money, you lost a job, and you could be facing homelessness in the next 30 days, then rapid rehousing would be there to cover the cost of your rent, kind of like insurance. For up to a year or even 2 years. I think the line is 2 years at this point. And so that's for those of you that can quickly rebound. So that's what CES has to offer. Now, the lower tiers of that are Shelter Plus, but who needs a yoga mat and a roll of socks, right? That's not going to fix anything. It's a sad option. So the emergency housing vouchers is administered through a program or test called SPDAT or SPDAT. That SPDAT is also known as BOSS, B-O-S-S. The administration of that is individual to each PHA or public housing authority. In other words, there's a different manual depending on where you are in this nation. And considering there are probably 3,000 to 4,000 counties, that would imply that there are 3,000 to 4,000 ways to get an emergency housing voucher and the others that I've said. In terms of timeline, I think after you reach out to them, if they answer the phone or return your call in the next couple of days, they'll likely ask a bunch of questions, usually between 12 to 15 questions. Provided you give the correct answers, then you would score high enough to be issued one of these 3 emergency type vouchers. The vouchers, so the questions and the answers you're going to want to acquire are through a COC. For those that don't know, a lot of policies, procedures, and manuals are underwritten by a company named NAN, N-A-N, and McKay. Those manuals can be quite expensive. I know we spent tens of thousands trying to acquire many of them. If you have them, it'd be a lot like you getting a formal education on how to understand everything about your PHA and even the stuff they don't want you to know. So those manuals are critical in engineering or reverse engineering many of their policies, and to be able to favorably get your client a voucher or even yourself if you understood this stuff well enough. Now, outside of the special realm of this emergency housing voucher, you have special use vouchers. All housing authorities will keep in a principle about 14% of all vouchers they have. Now, those vouchers that they're keeping in reserve comes from funds. In other words, even though a housing authority may be closed, they may not be offering any vouchers, and they have not done so since 1981, as an example. They may continue to privately issue vouchers based on specific special preferences. For instance, a person that may have been a federal witness, a state witness, they may have been referred by the district attorney's office. They may be a special referral from the state mental health hospital. And so there's many uses for special use vouchers. They're not going to publicize those. You simply would have to have the skill and education background to be able to access something like that or understand the mechanisms of how that would work. If you don't, then it would be easier for most of you to probably access a consultant like myself, where we're able to deliver this in a manageable way where we didn't have to speak for 12 hours to unravel the whole system. So we get out of emergency housing vouchers and special use vouchers, and we move over now to the vouchers most of you commonly refer to as Section 8. Section 8 is a subsection of the 1972 Fair Housing Act, and it covers in principle the federal funding that gives you vouchers. And these vouchers are what we refer to as a Housing Choice Voucher. It means we'll give you how it is your choice where you use the voucher to acquire your rental housing. And so the Housing Choice Voucher can be funded by many different streams of funding. So if my telephone here, let's pretend this red phone is a voucher, then if I attach, say you as a person have a case and you're looking for a voucher, but you also are a domestic violence victim, I can attach a string. So we have a voucher. Now I can attach another funding level as a string to the phone or the voucher itself, and then that would power your voucher in more than one way. Now, the more of these strings attached to this voucher here or phone means the more greater opportunities you have to rank higher on waiting lists and get through the system. The ultimate goal for anybody, whether you're seeking a voucher or whether you're consulting this, and you need to find out what your client's preferences are, which are the special reasons which you need a voucher, like being disabled, being a senior, domestic violence victim, having AIDS or HIV, whether you're on special use terms, and there's many, many other causes, but each one of those elements you have in your case powers it and makes it stronger. In other words, you climb up this almost imaginary list. Now you combine that with greater efforts to multiply your efforts across multiple counties and multiple states. So if this is all federally funded, it would technically mean a human could apply in every housing authority in America. You may only accept and use one voucher, but you may apply at hundreds of these housing authorities, and you cannot be stopped from doing that. There's nothing illegal. But the real gambit with it is, okay, so I have a client, say Sally says, "Hey Jay, thank you so much. We've applied to 30 housing authorities. Now, how the hell are we going to get the voucher back from the state of Florida to the state of California?" And that's through portability. And then many of you will argue, well, a housing authority, if I'm living in California and I apply in Florida, then why the hell would Florida allow me to move that voucher just a day after receiving it there? Wouldn't they make me want to live there for 12 months? Well, we have to learn that housing authorities are a lot like the courts. And you think about the truth, but never the whole truth. The housing authority is not going to teach you the but. And when I say the but, I mean that you have to live here for 12 months. But if these 11 other things occur, then we can, in principle, port the voucher. They're not going to teach you how to get through their system and cheat them a bit. And it's not cheating. It just means that you're well apprised of your rights. So I think that if you meet some of the criteria for portability, then the state of Florida would grant that portability and instantly move it despite their own 12-month policy. And that's through what we call an accommodation. So we have a third layer, right? So you create an accommodation or a reason as to why the housing authority would need to grant under federal rules portability, waive portability, and allow you to move that voucher from there without ever stepping foot, without ever living there, or any other reason. And that's your accommodation, unless that housing authority is willing to violate the 2008 Disability Act. So we're using an accommodation to power the portability, and then you're looking at being able to move it. But then we're going to add another fifth tier to this. It's a complex game, right? But it played well, you get your portability. So let's look at the dynamics of states and waiting lists. Every state clearly has them, and every county in America generally has a housing authority. Housing authorities throughout the Midwest are of special interest because if you applied, and as I always use an example, in a cornfield in Iowa, and you know that waiting list is 6 months, then everything that we just spoke about combined with that and a short waiting list means you're able to acquire a voucher in exceptional time. You're able to request portability based on accommodation, and then you're able to move a voucher in a very, very simple area of the country and get this all done in a let's say 4 to 8 month range, right? And then, of course, multiplying efforts is the final factor of all of this, and that's where you're applying at a large number of housing authorities. For about every 100 housing authorities you're able to apply at, you should expect a result between 3 to 6 offers of a voucher. Of the 6 offers you're going to get, I would estimate that almost half of those 3 are going to decline no matter how you play the game. They're going to decline your portability, and so it would work, right? So that's why sometimes it's a statistical numbers game to get enough offers to be refused roughly half the time. But again, all this comes down to one very simple thing. We only have to win one time. Your efforts you might have to reach out to 100 housing authorities, and a lot with a short list and willing to accept portability, and then also be able to go through the accommodation. But if you're able to achieve all the things I suggest, then you're able to take something and move it from in a short period of time to back to where you want it, thus skipping these crazy waiting lists that you may have in LA or New York. Now, there's even more to that, but I wanted to show you the possibility. And that's what we've been able to demonstrate and do thousands of times, probably over 20,000 times. It isn't successful every time. I know other company, I'll tell you that, through the pandemic and even after the pandemic, I would estimate that failure rates can go as high as 7%. But that's still better than your odds when you buy a scratch off, right? You go down to the gas station, you buy one, you hope that you're going to have a winner, right? Like it's just part of this. Your efforts and trying to get it done. Sometimes you're successful, sometimes you're not. At least the majority of the time when we're able to administrate through these programs, there is some good success there, but it takes a lot of work. And so that's 2 systems: emergency housing vouchers through CES and COC. And then, of course, we talked about the mainstream voucher or the Housing Choice Voucher being the same thing. And then I'm not going to waste my breath on discussing what we call subsidies or LITCH programs. That's basically low-income housing, affordable housing. It goes by many, many names, but it doesn't require a voucher. But the problem is if you move into the property in apartment A1, and then one day you decide, okay, well, I'm tired of being here. I don't like the landlord, don't like the property or the people who live here. You start all over again in these buildings, and they're all for subsidies, which is known as low-income housing or affordable housing. These properties already have a waiting list of people want to go there, and that waiting list is an internal mechanism. In other words, it is not federally overseen, and it's not regulated. Sally can lock herself in a broom closet and make up whatever bullshit list she wants. And then you're by virtue have to just trust that person. At least a real waiting list through a county housing authority has some oversight. There has to be some honesty. But with subsidies, it's whatever they want. You put out the bingo wheel, you just keep spinning it, pull a number. Well, I don't like that person, toss that ball, spin it again. You just keep going. There's nobody there to call you out on your bullshit, right? So I don't really recommend subsidies. All right, guys, I'm going to move on to the comments here as I promised the Q&A and then most of the talking here, it seems like. So Gabby goes, no offense taken, I'm listening. I'm glad to have you, Gabby. And then next on is going to be Lizzie. I'm on disability for my hand. My key got stuck in a lock Saturday. I called the landlord because I couldn't open any of the doors. He yelled and blamed me. I stopped complaining because in February, I couldn't read the rest there. Well, it sounds like you've got some type of disability, whether it's short or long term. Your landlord's upset for you either receiving that injury or potentially damaging the property. Lizzie, if you have a great concern, you can't sleep at night, give my office a call. Though I feel pretty shameless to accept the case. It's so simple, but I need to know a little bit more to be able to help you figure out what would be the best way to handle that. Cutie Pie. Okay, first good name of the day, and I caught it. So Cutie Pie says, I'm so glad I made it to your live. I just found you, and I'm so glad I did. Well, Cutie Pie, we're glad to have you. We like your name. I have an affinity for good, interesting YouTube names, even the friendly ones. And a few times we get raunchy people in here with bad names, but I like that one. And Lizzie goes on to say, I will be, and I appreciate that. Okay, guys, so this is your opportunity. Anything related to Section 8, to HUD, Code of Federal Regulation, Title 24, policies, procedures, data manuals, emergency housing vouchers, seniors that need Section 811, Section 202 or subsection 202 of Code of Federal Regulation. For those that are domestic violence victims that need VAWA, for those that are veterans that need HUD VASH, now's the time to speak. If you have questions, you have concerns, you have a bad landlord. Maybe you have a shitty housing authority employee that talks shit to you when you deal with them. Whatever your situation is, I would either recommend asking questions here, or you can reach out to our office. And again, our information is in there. We've been on YouTube for 10, 15 years, and I know that I've been consulting now for close to 24. So you're in good hands. And we're also reaching, I think, about 400 reviews finally. It took a while, and I got to tell you, out of all the reviews I've ever read in my life regarding different businesses, and I read them as well, I've got to say that probably our company has some of the most neurotic reviews ever given to a company. But we do have interesting clients. Not all of our clients are normal. We deal with prostitutes. We deal with former drug users, drug lords. You have to love people despite the setbacks, because if I was like a lot of the consultants in my field, they wouldn't want to take a case where somebody struggled with mental health or drugs or alcohol, prostitution, gang activity, criminal activity. I'm actually in many cases the last stop for a lot of folks because I don't judge. I'm not here to judge anybody. All right. Let's take a look, see if these new comments here. Are you down? Lopez says, I live in Oz, California, and I've been told flat out, no Section 8 here. I'd like to prove that wrong if I can, but I need to know the actual name again. I'm not sure that spelling's right. AZUSA, California. If you could give me the actual correct spelling on that, I'd like to look it up and just see. I find it highly unusual that the state of California would have any place that doesn't have a PHA. Julie Thomas goes on to say, I have a friend who was living in with an abusive family who left the couch to serve in another state. She's on SSI, that would be actually SSDI, Social Security Disability, but changed to retirement, which would be SSI or SSIA. She wants to live in another state where she had, and you got cut off, it looks like. Well, Julie, it looks like there are a lot of established preferences that would essentially help that person with the DB case or domestic violence. However, it's such a short amount of information, I'd have a hard time determining how good or bad the person's case would be, or be able to instruct you in the video. And besides that, it's a very private matter. So I would say to you, Julian, if you actually need help, or you or that person, reach out to our office, because I don't know that we should discuss such sensitive topics in an open public or in an open video like this, Are you down, Lopez? It goes on. What do you think I should do? I think you should reach out to me after the video, okay? Look, guys, I don't mind answering questions on a simple basis, but in some cases where we're talking about people's private lives, I'm not going to do it in a public format, okay? I'm not trying to push anybody to book an appointment with me. I'm just suggesting that we cannot infringe on people's private lives in a live video. JW, my concerns aren't showing up. Well, JW, this is the only comment I see from you is there. There could be a number of reasons of why your questions or comments are not showing up in the feed. Sometimes Google, as you see, my hands are free. I'm not doing anything. Sometimes if YouTube determines they don't like whatever you're saying, they may remove it. I had a case where the word stool, S-T-O-O-L, kept getting removed, though I was talking about a bar stool. But from a medical perspective, I think we all know what a stool is. So even small words in YouTube's algorithm can be blocked for nefarious or honest reasons, okay? It's not me. Cutie Pie says, I will see you. All right, we'll see you again, too. Julia Thomas says she has medical issues also. Okay, so that means she has a qualified disability. Julia Thomas, no names. And moving on from there, you download pass. Gotcha, thank you. And let's see, Julie Thomas goes on to thank you. Well, guys, I think we got off to a reasonable warm-up party here and questions, Q&A. So what I'm going to do is we're going to do another one. What I've got to do is give you guys a few cocktails and get you warmed up for the holidays here, so you'll talk a little more, comment a little bit more, a little bit less strength. So I guess you guys are waiting to trust me. And so we'll run another Q&A, and this time we'll do it with maybe a couple of cups of champagne and see if I can loosen you guys up and get you to talk a little more. Well, guys, I'm going to go ahead and close this down where we are, and then I think in another 24 hours we'll give this another run and see who shows up, and then discuss some things further. If you guys have a specific topic in mind, I'm always happy to discuss that. If you have specific concerns or emergencies coming, please do reach out to us. Our information is posted throughout our YouTube channel. And after making more than 1,000 videos and hundreds, if not thousands, of posts in the YouTube channel, it's very easy to get in touch with our office regarding any matter of concern that's related to federal programs, the housing voucher, Section 8, and so forth. Okay? All right, I'm going to answer the last questions I can here. Somebody asks, how are your kitties doing? Now, that's actually surprising because I am notably or arguably one of the most known cat people on YouTube when it comes to bringing up cats. It's usually the first thing people ask about, whether they're using our services or even communicating through our videos. How are the cats? So all my big herd of, I think about 23 now, and we added a new one. Matter of fact, why don't we just take a quick peek at our newest cat? He is a Maine Coon cat. He's rather large. He's a stray, and I've been nursing him back to health. He was wicked skinny, and he's got a big head. He just is about 2/3 of the weight under. We've been feeding him triple what I feed my ordinary cats because he's pretty underweight. So we'll just take a quick glimpse at him. Try not to disturb him. Hey, Papa, they want to see you. That's it, Papa. There we go. There we go. There we go. So there he is. You can see he's pretty thin. So we keep him on a steady diet of calories. He should technically be about twice as big as he is now, but we're working through that. He's been staying with me. He's friendly the while, but he's a lovable bear. His head's twice as big as my normal cats. So this is a mixed Maine Coons. He's also taken in with the alpha around the house. And you guys know my affinity for cats and saving them. I give cats a home. As much as I love the house people, I do the same thing for my cats. I don't know. I have a deep affinity for the love and care of animals and living things. And Tom here, we're going to bring him back to health, get him a pretty coat, put all that weight, put the weight back on him, and as you can see, he trusts me, though we can't pet him just yet. He's still wild. He's still trying to determine whether I'm here to help him and love him, or if I'm going to leave him on the side of a street while he starves to death. He don't know it yet, but we're going to get him right, fatten him up like a turkey, and love him. And I tell you what, I've seen him defend my other cats. He's much bigger in terms of being a cat, and I think he's going to make a great alpha for the herd. Now, Big Pops, of course, is upset. He's not used to dealing with a wild cat, and there's been a bit of a battle, but that's okay. Sometimes we have to change the regime, and I think that Tom would be a good defender of all our ladies and my Siamese cats, and I think he'll make a great addition to the lot. It's good to have a good big cat to keep a little security going. And he's also run off other stray cats that have come in. He's kind of defended the honor of many of my cats, some of the strays that throughout the neighborhood to come over here and try to attack. So he's already proved his value. All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and see if there's any other questions here. Thank you so much. I really appreciate your videos. But thank you so much for saying so. Cutie Pie says, kitties are special. Wow, he's big. You really are an angel. Pretty Kitty says Julie Thomas. Loopy E.G. Nino, are you going to do the next live stream? Yes, I will be doing the next live stream within 24 hours. It's just been hellish. You know what, guys? When you've got a herd of cats, over 20, and you don't have a lot of help, trying to do Christmas stuff, I have to do it early, right? So we're just getting started on the tree. You'll see that it develop as we go. We moved into a new studio. It's been a lot of work, trying to jump from appointments to consulting and to having a personal life. So you can imagine, guys, I'm always, 1 inch from exhaustion, but I still manage it these days. All right, so Arya Down Lopez says, you are an awesome soul. Well, I hope so. I hope when I take my last breath that I don't regret the life that I've lived, and I hope I don't regret my efforts to help those that are struggling out there that need housing, as well as those that are cats. So you can say that I truly try to house everybody or every living thing if I can. It's always been my mission in life. If you guys ever catch me out there in a Lincoln and with a gold watch rolling around town that needs to feel important, look, I don't. I drive a 10-year-old truck, okay? I spend my money on real things that live. I could own the new iPhone. I could own the fancy car. I could own the Gucci shoes, or I could take that money and use it in the care of loved things that live. They can return the same affections. And so that's how I use my money. All right, moving on from there. Loopy Ninja says, shared housing. Well, I can certainly discuss that next time if you wish. Can DB program help me move out and get the EV? I think you mean the emergency housing voucher. Yes, but I don't think that DB programs, I think we should talk about DB or VAWA programs and domestic violence housing. I don't always think that's the best solution for housing, okay? I know a lot of you feel that that's a fast way to do things, but I find that type of housing struggles, and so does the funding. And so I think there's better ways to get vouchers without being asked to be put through a whole different system of things that would potentially disappoint you. JC, my landlord attempted to evict me during the moratorium in Los Angeles. I am a HUD bash voucher recipient. The housing authority did nothing to stop them. That's not shocking when it comes to Laisha. I don't know exactly who you're talking. Well, they're by far one of the shittiest housing authorities I've dealt with, but they're definitely not the lowest. There are lots of scummy housing authorities that are privately owned. I've made many videos that are profanity laced and about as bar talk and sailor as you can get, but there's no other Christian way to describe how I would actually feel about housing authorities that extort, violate, that rob, steal, and do all kinds of things. I made many videos showing on direct evidence housing authorities literally stealing all the money, prejudicial behaviors, and we can get deeply into that. I just read today on Google 3 more housing authorities up in smoke, literally stole every dime. They're now on HUD's radar. They're insolvent without money. The scams going on inside of housing authorities are becoming quite sophisticated, and I'm watching them fall like dominoes. I can think of now 25 housing authorities that are now almost insolvent or will be federally indicted, and all the employees will likely be locked up. And these are not small housing authorities. These are massive ones. And the consequences of the fallout behind that, when you have a bunch of idiots running a housing authority that steal all the money that's intended for voucher recipients, and HUD has to step in and literally storm the building, kick the door off, arrest everybody, charge them up, send them to federal court, indict everybody. And I mean, I just talked about a video where a housing authority had 85 all up in its checking account because they stole everything. When I say stole, we take the company credit card, we go buy Gucci slippers, diamond earrings, we steal it till there's nothing left, and then the scam implodes, right? And so there'll probably be another 3 videos just talking about, and I don't mean how, it's interesting how housing authorities put this phone number. If you believe you've been scammed, please call this number. No, they don't need to call your number. You are the scam. You see the point? Isn't it so duplicitous that the housing authority will make all these assertions? Don't get ripped off. That could be a scam, but in fact, it is usually the housing authority being sued and indicted. And so the corruption is wild with this stuff. And again, it's not every housing authority, but there are hundreds of examples of housing authorities literally just doing whatever the fuck they want. And when the money runs out, the people start disappearing, and then the housing authority becomes insolvent, and then the feds have to step in and arrest everybody. So there are a lot of housing authorities and their employees that are now receiving Section 9. Many of you know what Section 8 is. Section 9 is when you give them 3 hots and a cot in a federal prison. They get their lease, and they'll get a 25 to 30-year lease. Fortunately, they'll receive no keys, and they'll lock their ass up in a box for doing what they did. Taking advantage of people that are disabled, that are seniors, and you're in a position to administer federal funds, and because you have no moral center, you have no ethical center, and you simply decide that you're going to defraud all that money while you work at the housing authority, and you become prejudicial, there are consequences. Okay? There are major consequences. And from my perspective, in my office, including the law offices we use to power the work that we do, I take no issue with suing any housing authority that gets in my way. Now, considering the amount of fraud that goes on, I would say that most housing authorities do operate pretty good, but there are many more that are bad. With that, guys, I'm going to let it go because I don't want this video to be filled with profanities today, because you know how intense I can be when it comes to that. So I think let's just let it go. If you want a hot and spicy video, I'm sure that'll roll out Sunday when I have a little bit more to say about another housing authority that has stole every copper penny in the building, and now there's nothing left. And the shit's fixing to roll down the hill, trust me. All right, guys, if I didn't answer your question, it was not my intent. I've certainly tried, but unfortunately, I've got appointments coming up here this morning, and I've got to get off this video. Enjoy your morning. Happy holidays for those that celebrate it. We'll see you again with me, the cats, the Christmas tree, in 24 hours. We'll do another Q&A. Get your questions ready. I'll certainly be ready to pop my lips in the video and tell you whatever you need to know, okay? Enjoy your day. Bye-bye.